Welcome back to Season 3 of ASD Market Week's podcast, Let's Talk a Little Shop. With your host, me, Emilie Lewis. We're going to tackle the hard subjects. So buckle up and get ready for Season 3. We're going to have a lot of fun. Welcome, everyone, to ASD's podcast, Let's Talk a Little Shop. We are launching Season 3 today, and I could not be more excited to have our first guest for Season 3, David Levich, who is the co-founder and co-owner of an amazing brand called Sun-Staches. Now, David, I'm so excited that you were brave enough to say you'll be our first guest for Season 3, so thank you.
Well, Emily, thank you for having me on. I very much appreciate it. I'm excited, and I'm honored to be your first guest for Season 3. So thank you so much.
Can you tell our audience, give us your best elevator pitch?
Well, our Sun-Staches is a brand of glasses that are actually a party on your face. Let's just put it that way. It is, but we do have adult glasses. We have kids glasses. We have all different sizes, and you will become, whatever character you put on. So it's a transformative eyewear product, and you could almost visualize it as a mask that's much easier to wear and protect your eyes from the sun. So, yeah. And I'm sure you've seen it around because we have most parties nowadays have a pair of Sun-Staches there. Most photo booths have Sun-Staches out there, so you've probably seen them around.
Yeah, I would love to think that all of our viewers have been to ASD. If they haven't, they need to come. But
100%.
I know that there's probably not one person out there that has not done the photo booth, photo opportunity moment at a party, a prom, a wedding, and every single time I'm in one of those photo booths, no doubt Sun-Staches is there. So it's a great brand. It's a fun brand. And that really is what we're talking about today, because the theme of Season 3 for our podcast is all about what's important. And when we were going through, the relationship that ASD has had with your brand and what your brand represents, the first thing that came to my mind and my entire team's mind was fun. It is really just a fun brand. When you guys were building the brand, was there a motto or something that sparked the idea? Were you guys thinking about fun? Did you find something that was missing in the market? Tell us a little bit about how you guys started it.
I mean, I'm smirking because there's a lot of mottos that we made, but most of them weren't appropriate. So, but yes, absolutely. Our goal, first of all, was to differentiate ourselves from regular sunglasses because everybody was selling, the same stuff. So when we started doing this, we said, how do we become different, completely different? And that kind of was the first part. But fun is actually a byproduct, I would say. And once we realized that, we created, we started going way deeper into that. So like right now, why we love giving out Sun-Staches at ASD, because there's not a single person that will put it on their face and not laugh or smile. And frankly, like whenever you start seeing people smiling and your booth is kind of a joke and everyone's having a good time, it's always it gives you energy to get through the day. And I realized that's exactly what our glasses do to kids, to adults, and all over the world. So this is exactly why we're so excited to keep our line actually growing very rapidly throughout the world, which is really cool.
I love that. And we're going to dive into some of the brand origins in a minute, but I always like to get to know, I'll say in this case, the man behind the glasses. So I'd like to get to know you a little bit more on a personal level. So tell us where you grew up and a little bit about your family dynamic.
Sure. My parents are medical professionals. I was born in Moscow. I immigrated to America when I was around 8 years old. So I'm actually originally Russian, and I got thrown into a school that no one spoke any English. Any Russian. So I picked up English pretty quickly. But after that, we lived in Hollywood, and then we moved to the Valley. And my parents wanted me to be doctors, and that's the last thing I wanted to do. So right out of high school, my friends and I started different businesses selling different things, including hip hop jewelry, which we also sold at ASD. Yep. And after a while, that's kind of how that's how this whole thing developed. But that's my life.
I mean, that's amazing. What a journey you have had. So I imagine that being the only child that didn't speak English in an English speaking school, you had to adapt pretty quickly. What was your most memorable moment of that time in your life?
I'll tell you the best moment I would think is after I went to my school the first day, or like maybe the first week or something. I was 9 years old, I think. I came home and my parents asked me how was your first day of school or first week of school, and I told them like I feel like everybody's speaking Russian because I actually kind of felt like I understood. So and I mean when I came to America, I spoke Italian also because I picked up
Oh, wow.
Italian when I lived in Italy for a year, but I don't remember it any longer. But I literally felt that I picked up English incredibly quickly. I was really young, and I felt like everybody spoke Russian. So that's what I still remember. And people were really nice to me, which is at least that's what I thought. So, but the people were really nice to me.
So what do you think that you feared most about, your future or growing up at that time?
The only thing I could think of is actually the same thing that I fear now, which is as
Oh,
an adult and as a kid, because I think it's been ingrained in me as a Russian immigrant is being broke,
ah,
literally being broke.
okay.
It is something that I always feared because we were broke. When you left Russia, or actually at the time of the Soviet Union, you denounce your citizenship. You cannot take anything with you. You cannot sell your home. You
Oh,
cannot, even if you do, you can't take any money with you. You can't take anything with you. So you could take a
wow.
suitcase and really. So when we came to America and when we were in Italy, we were broke. We had no money. Um, so
Wow.
that was my fear ingrained in me. So I've had that fear ever since I was a child, and still do. Like that's kind of my drive. Like I just never want to be broke, and I don't want my kids to experience that same feeling that I've had. So I think that's the fear. You know,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
drives me.
I think you have a lot of people out there that share that fear. And
Hmm.
I found that the most successful people that I know and have had the pleasure to, you know, work with or talk to in some way, shape, or form, there's a common denominator there of how they grew up and their drive and how that pushed them to be successful today. So that's really interesting to hear from you. Okay, one more fun question, and then I want to share the origin stories for Sun-Staches. So, what's your favorite holiday? Just out of curiosity. Oh,
I'm gonna say Halloween. I love
I love
Halloween.
it.
So I mean, yeah, I mean, Sunstash is like a perfect product for Halloween. I
Yes,
mean,
yes.
believe it or not, it's not our top. That's not our top season where we sell goods, but it is.
Okay.
It is a strong one. But I just feel like when something is festive and a little bit of dark, it's just kind of fun. And I love everyone getting dressed up. I think it's really cool. My kids like love Halloween, especially my daughter. She
I
will
love
probably be like
that.
15 different characters. This Halloween, including Wednesday, which is incredibly popular,
Yes.
and then there'll probably be more. But I'm gonna say that Halloween is definitely it.
It's so funny that you say that Halloween is not your top selling season because I was actually literally on your website looking for some sunglasses for a costume for my 10-year-old last night. So
It is strong for us, especially certain items.
Mhm.
But it is not our top selling season. Summer sunglass season, going to theme
Hmm.
park season is our top season for sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. All right, so tell us how, this kid that was an immigrant from Russia with high expectations from, obviously very, successful in their own right, parents moving to Hollywood, the mecca of, California and, the US in such,
Mhm.
pop culture sense. Um, how did Sun-Staches start? Because you guys have a very unique story that ties a little bit into Hollywood.
It was my partners and I from high school. So that's who
Okay.
started that's who started the company. It was, currently there's three of us. Um, and we were selling hip hop jewelry, all the bling stuff, and we were really good at it. We were doing really well. At one point, we were top, like Forbes top 30 under 30.
Wow.
you know, like all that stuff. This is when we were under 30. We're clearly not there anymore. Not even under 40 any longer. Not even under 40 any
Yeah,
longer.
no,
But
we get it.
so, you know, during the 2008 and the Great Recession, the economy
Mhm.
started dropping pretty significantly, and a lot of our customers lost their credit.
Ah,
So what
yeah.
we started looking at is how do we, you know, kind of pivot at that point to a different market, and the best market we saw was eyewear. And the reason why is because at the time there was a lot of famous products like like shutter shades that Kanye wore.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
a fun story actually is my partner Dan. We were trying to do business with Claire's because we were doing some business with them for jewelry, and we
Okay.
were trying to do business with sunglasses for Claire's, and they weren't interested in the shutter shades. They were just not interested. So what Dan did is he offered a buyer because he had the buyer's ear, but he offered the buyer 10,000 pairs, I believe the number was, for free, not even consignment, and said if you sell them, you keep the profit. If you all the profit, and if you don't sell them, then throw them away. But if you do sell them and they are successful, buy them from me. And
Wow.
after that,
Wow.
we sold, I mean, millions of units of that product to Claire's specifically, and then
That is
other
such a great
retailers.
story, and I wanna stop you really quick right there because that takes so much foresight to take that kind of risk. Do
Right.
you feel that if your partner at that point had not taken that risk, that you guys would be where you are today?
Probably not, because we've done after that when we did develop Sun-Staches, which is a mustache sunglass, and I'll get back to how it was developed. That was they were the first ones to really carry that product as well, which is Claire's, because we
Wow.
already were because they trusted us at the time.
Yeah.
And even if it wasn't, and they were kind of, if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have a chance to kind of make a large market out of it, you know. But and so yes,
Wow.
I would say that was a massive point in our book. You know,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
I would say that was a chapter. You know, but
I've never heard a
absolutely
story like that. It's really, really interesting. So I'll let you get back to how you guys started, but that I've
sure.
never heard someone taking, I mean, 10,000 units is a
It,
lot. And to
and I
offer
think
that
it was
up.
10,000. I might be off by a couple thousand, but it was not even a consignment deal. It was literally
Yeah.
sell it and trash it. And I mean the buyer, I think at the time was like, it'd be irresponsible for me not to do that. You know, like the
Wow.
opportunities
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So
He was just
and we
offered the deal of a lifetime.
and we scrambled because we didn't even know how to manufacture them that well at the time. So like we kind of like scrambled to get it done, you know. So
Wow.
it was pretty wild.
Okay.
But I'll tell you how we started is because we had a design department. We were starting to work in sunglasses, and our in-house design team, you know, we had a few designers at the time, but one of our designers, Jordan, came up and he's like, hey, you know, we should make something with mustaches, and he kind of developed an idea because like well, he lived like in the area where hipsters were, and I'm like I saw mustaches being a big thing. Jewelry was starting to have mustaches on it, and things like that.
Mhm. Mhm.
So he kind of developed a thing where it had like, you know, all plastic mustache thing that connected, and I'm like, hey, look, it's not gonna move correctly, and we're already making jewelry, so why don't we put them on chains? And that's why our first mustache glasses had chains hanging down because we're already making jewelry. So that was how the original product was born,
Got it.
and the brand. And then after that, it kind of, you know, went further and further, you know, where you know, we started making glasses not with mustaches and all kinds of different things, but it's, you know, it's just kind of, it started off in that end.
Got it. Got it.
So
That's interesting. And I did not know the backstory about the jewelry, so that makes total sense with the chain now. I
mhm.
totally get it.
Right.
So you guys ended up on a small little show that probably, you know, nobody that's listening to this is going to know, called Shark Tank.
Oh yeah, that show.
Oh
I
yeah,
remember
yeah.
that.
That story. So I know there's probably some things because I know, you know, that world makes you sign, you know, certain NDAs and there's certain things that you can't talk about. But whatever you can tell us about your experience on Shark Tank and, you know, maybe what you've learned or how it changed your business.
Sure. Shark Tank was a big deal in our lives, and it was almost by mistake we got on that show. And I'm gonna say almost by mistake because we were about to go to a trade show in Las Vegas, the three of us, my two partners, and myself.
Okay.
And we found out there was an open casting call in Vegas, and and we're too lazy to fill out the applications and all this other stuff. So my wife, who at the time worked with us, she kind of said, she's like, you guys are going to this open casting call and I'll fill out your application, which is like a huge application. So we got to this open casting call at the Silverton Casino in Las Vegas, waited in line for hours, and got a chance to pitch to a producer for like 30 seconds over a megaphone that somebody was using behind us. So like we made a 25-second pitch to make it sound, that we're fun and we have a great product. And at the time, we really had no licensing. I think we just had Nickelodeon. We just got Nickelodeon license, and we ended up, talking to the producer, and the producer told us this. He basically said to us, "Hey, look, this is a long process, but so you just be ready." And we didn't know what that meant, but we felt like, "Hey, look, I think we did well enough to maybe get a phone call back." And eventually we did, and now it's all history. But overall, it was pretty cool.
Do you remember the pitch?
No,
the 20.
I mean,
20
that original one. This is a 10 years ago. I mean, we aired in 2014, season 6, right? So this is the actual pitch was 10 years ago in 2013.
Wow.
So,
and you guys ended up choosing Daymond John as your, shark, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So what was that like? What was there? Was that I imagine now, knowing your background, that was very strategic, but you have to make those decisions really quick, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's wild. So Daymond John chose us. Let's not take it back. We didn't choose him. He chose us, and we are very, very fortunate he chose us, because at the time when we went in, we obviously wanted Mark Cuban, because Mark Cuban's a billionaire. He's the richest guy by far, more than everybody else. We think all these things, and we're incredibly fortunate to have Daymond, because we've worked with him for the last 9 years. The guy is a stand-up human being. I mean, we've spent a lot of time with him. He is incredibly smart. He is incredibly fair. I've said before to others, like, people talk to me about like, how is it working with Daymond? And like, he has contractually a lot of opportunities to potentially, to do a lot more and take more of your company if necessary, whatever. It doesn't really matter. But the point is, he never has ever done anything that's been negative to us. He's only done things that are advantageous to us. So also he knows licensing. He has incredibly good connections, and he's very good at retail. He understands apparel, which is close to sunglasses, but not. But we are, wholeheartedly, we're incredibly fortunate. We're still, good friends. We work together. We're partners, all that. So we got lucky, and he chose us. At the time, I believe it was the deal was the worst deal in the history of Shark Tank, because our valuation was so bad. So I believe that was the case, but it has worked out for everybody incredibly well. So we're very fortunate.
What do you think the biggest lesson that you've learned from Daymond has been?
Oh, man, this is going to be a tough one, actually. This is a tough one, but I'll tell you that he trusts he trusts a lot of people. He actually trusts people, and he lets them do their thing. He lets them run, and he lets them run until they prove him wrong. And that's a big deal, because a lot of the times we're micromanaging everything, including our team and everybody else. And it kind of puts you in a place where you can't get much done. Daymond doesn't. He has a lot of a big team, and each team member is really responsible for their part of their business, and it's really interesting to see that. So, I've seen that. There are a lot of lessons from Daymond. Like, if you really pay attention, like ethically, morally, like even health wise, he was diagnosed with cancer. And he did it because he did a specific screening. I think it's called Prenuvo or something like that. They caught it early, and he had surgery. And because of that, I'm doing this screening too now, because I saw him doing it, so I'm doing it as well. So there are a lot of lessons. I definitely follow a lot of things that he does. So
that's like I said, that's amazing to hear. You've seen a lot. What do you feel is most important for a successful brand in the beginning stages, of building and launching a company? What foundationally, what do you think is most important?
I believe the most important part is your team.
Mm,
Really is your team, because we're fortunate. The majority of our team has been with us since we were selling jewelry. So,
mhm,
it's a big deal. And the ones that aren't, we have incredibly low turnover. They're, you know, I feel that if you keep on having high turnover, and everybody dislikes you, or you dislike everybody, and you have a negative environment, you're just not going to be able
mm,
to build a very successful business. Sometimes the cost is you yourself won't make as much money, but that's okay, because overall, long term, you're gonna do fine. Um, if that's, there's obviously circumstances that are beyond your control, like COVID and things like that. Um, but in order to build a brand, is you have to build a good team, and you also have to believe in your product, and
mm.
you cannot screw people over. You just
Yeah.
cannot. Especially, you cannot screw over your customers, your employees, really, like, your licensors in the space, because your reputation is very important, and it's a very small world. So,
Yes. 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 It is such a small world out there. So to your point, it's a really good piece of advice that you really have to be careful. And you should be treating people good regardless. But
absolutely.
I think in a business, you really need to think about that. So that's a great piece of advice. Tell us about a time that maybe you made a decision, or a decision was made and it resulted in failure.
No, man. Uh, Failure. A lot of them. There have been a lot of failure. I mean, there are full product lines that we've created that we spent, like during COVID. All right, we
Hmm.
we didn't know what to do, because, like, our sales are down significantly. So we're like, we went to licensors and asked them to make face shields, because we're making sunglasses. So
Yeah.
why don't we make face shields with licensed face shields? We spent a lot of money, especially when we didn't have it,
Hmm.
because we had no sales coming in, and we developed a bunch of products, and brought in a
Hmm.
bunch of products from the United States originally, because you couldn't get much from China, and eventually from China, and we lost all that money, because it really sold almost nothing. So,
Mm,
but then we just, kind of like said, okay, scratch it off. That, like, we made this error. It taught us that sometimes things you think are going to work are not going to work. But we
mhm.
move forward, and that's all it comes down to. Just what you just cannot dwell on these things. If you do, you're just going to keep on thinking everything fails.
Yeah, no, that's a good piece of advice. Everyone's gonna fail, and resiliency is key. So that's a really
Hmm.
good piece of advice.
I think
N-
the goal is speed bumps, right? Try taking risks that are speed bumps. They're not brick
Yeah,
walls, and that's and
yeah,
that's the most important part.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know.
I always say, risk are okay, calculated risk are preferred. Because if you can take some calculated risk and gain some learnings on it, it can only propel you further. But to your point, yes, the brick walls, you don't want to run into those. You want the speed bumps, no matter how big or
Mhm.
small.
Right. Exactly.
You brought up something, you talked about COVID, and we know that that was a really tough time for a lot of people. What is your outlook for 2024? And, what advice do you have for others in terms of how to navigate rough waters, whether they come or not?
I mean, everyone has to mitigate their own risk, right? But there were a lot of people I know, that during COVID, before they knew it really much of anything, they just saw the business is slowing down. They fired a bunch of their people, and
Mhm.
when they realized there were PPP options or different options, they had absolutely no chance to get those people back, and that became a very significant problem. I think, like, as an owner, you have to make enough money to be able to support yourself, and maybe not pay yourself for a while, but make
Mm,
sure you keep your team paid, right? Which we did during COVID, to make sure, for a certain amount of time, we wanted to make sure that we didn't make any drastic decisions where we laid off everybody or did
yeah.
anything like that. So we want to see what options we had. And if, like, we're going to lose money for a certain amount of time, we didn't want to kill our entire business. And that's what we kind of did. And I think that's the same thing right now. Like, if look at what's present, right? And then
Mhm.
you can mitigate some risk. But if you're going to make drastic decisions in anticipation of something you have no clue, because if
Mm,
economists don't know, and they can't gauge it, you can't gauge it, right? And you might be right this time, but you'll be wrong next time. So
Yeah.
so I think like obviously be conservative, but
Hmm.
you know, and have like what we do is we bring in more conservative product. Like we know during recessions, typically evergreen licenses do very well because people are comfortable with them, right? Products under $10 do well. We are
Hmm.
both of those things. So
Okay.
we know that our customers are, and we tell our customers that, like, look, guys, our products are still gonna sell, and
Hmm.
we're also impulse, and we're also a brick and mortar, you know. So all these things are right now that make sense. So we absolutely um, do that, but we also understand that we cannot just hire everybody we want to right now. We can't fill everything, you know, we can't
Yeah.
fill every position. We can't take significant inventory risk. We have to minimize our inventory risk. So you just have to mitigate all that.
Most people have opinions and they're very strong and they stick to them. And you're saying, I don't know. And it's okay not to know. And
Mm-hmm.
so I would say running a business when you don't know, what are some steps that you think you can take to mitigate those risks or plan accordingly when you really don't know?
And then take some risk off the both bottom line and top line. And in my opinion is, like, let's say you are expecting, if you're really worried, you know, don't bring in as much inventory for the year. That's
Yeah.
one of the things, you know, maybe cut a few expenses that are not the most important expenses to you, but don't, like, you know, don't take drastic measures preemptively. And that's what a
Yeah.
lot of people do. You know, they see the first sign of weakness and they'll literally cause significant problems. A lot of people have destroyed their businesses by firing a ton of their good, expensive employees, but good employees who then afterwards, even 3 months later, didn't want to come back. You know,
Yeah.
because they got really upset about it, and they said, like, you know, you didn't even give it a chance to figure out what's going on, and you know, and that
Yeah.
happened. And I know I have a lot of friends and people in my industry that like that's one of that's one of the biggest mistakes they've ever made in their entire business. And we've all navigated through different, like, we navigated through the Great Recession. We changed our entire business because
Yeah.
we saw it going, but that's because it was real time going to shit. Sorry for my language, you
Yeah.
know.
You're fine.
But that was real time. We were seeing this, and we had to navigate out of that and change our entire business. That was a drastic decision, but we felt that
Yeah.
that was the one that made sense. But we didn't preemptively do this, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so that's basically my opinion.
Yeah. And I keep hearing a theme reoccur with you, which, I wholeheartedly believe in, which is the importance of team and people and making sure that the people come first. I love that because I can't speak, more highly of the team that makes up ASD Market Week and the team behind the scenes that's making, that event happen twice a year. So, why, talking about ASD Market Week, why did you guys choose to do trade shows?
Because it matters what every trade show has a different reason.
Mhm.
I could tell you what ASD is to us.
Yeah.
It's to us, ASD is completely different distribution that we currently have, and
Okay.
it takes years to develop that business. It's not like you do one ASD show, oh, okay, it was all right, or it was not good, I'm not doing it again. It takes years and years, and we have been a mainstay at ASD. We had for many years. We were selling. I've been going to ASD since I was 18 years old. I'm over 40. Figure that one out. So
I love
um,
that. I love that.
so I mean, I've been going there for a long time.
I,
It was hard to
I
get a
might
hotel.
need to tap into you to get some of the history of ASD before I was here.
ASD is, to me, it's a different distribution to order writing show. So we get completely different. We also get mom and pop business there.
Yeah.
You know, where other shows, we do those shows almost, we know we're not going to write much orders or really any orders there. It's more of a PR business, you know. So,
Yeah.
and some of them are very specialized shows. So we like shows because still face to face is the way to do business to us. It's
Mm.
hard to do a lot of, I mean, some retailers prefer, especially the larger ones, prefer Zoom meetings. They don't even want to see you anymore, and that's fine. But we
Mhm.
still, there's a lot of different type of distribution and businesses, and ASD has a very large variety of it,
Yeah.
and some of them we're building to be very big, you know, for our sales, and we're very excited about it. That's why we keep coming back.
Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head, especially with ASD. It is about building your business. So you have to invest and it takes time. but it really is about connecting with people, and trade shows and events in general. There's just a connection that you can get at events that no matter how great the digital landscape is, no matter how many meetings you take in, the metaverse, it's not the same as, meeting with your customer face to face and getting, that interaction that really helps build your business. So, thank you for that. And thank you for coming to ASD and supporting us, because we love having you guys there. When we were talking about this podcast, I sent you a picture, which we use all the time with ASD, which is the team's favorite picture, and it's Sun-Staches. Well, I know time is of the essence. This has been such, a great podcast to talk to you, to learn a little bit more about the brand, but so many good business insights from, I think there's a lot of people out there that they might be struggling with their business. They might be trying to start or launch a business. They might be trying to scale their business. And to hear from you, to hear from someone that really built from the ground up, I always think, is so inspiring, because I think people always think, oh, well, that guy could do it, or that woman could do it, and I can't. And, you're telling people, no, like I came from the ground up and I built it, and it took a long time. And these are some of the things that are important. So thank you for those insights.
Can I give you one more thing?
Please
what
do.
You just said?
Please do.
Our business, our original business, it was actually Iced Out Gear, which is our jewelry business. I kind of spurred into this, right? Eventually, I mean, it started with $200. That's what it started with. There were no debt. I mean, I used credit card debt, I guess, for a while, but it was literally $200. So, and at the time we were putting things on eBay. I mean, everything, it just takes time and a lot of work. And a great team. That's really what it comes down to. And believing in your product, developing something, for a market if it doesn't exist. But it started with $200. So if somebody says they can do it, they could absolutely do it. The landscape is changing. There is a lot of, if you want to have brick and mortar, you really have to have service base and entertain your customer base. That's a big deal. Versus, people. But if you want to go on Amazon or any of these other businesses, you're going to find a lot of competition. And you really have to change that too. You have to entertain your customer there as well, because you have to differentiate yourself, right? So, but anyone could really do it. It just you have to put in the work. That's what it comes down to.
I want to end in, a fun way. And I always find it interesting when I'm talking to my friends. The first things that I start to ask them are, hey, what movie did you last see? What book did you last read? What did you eat for dinner last night? So I'm just going to pretend like we're old friends that are just catching up. So tell us the last movie that you saw, and did you like it or not, and why?
I'm just trying to figure out what I saw. I mean, I usually only watch movies on planes, so I don't. What I see, or actually, I saw Mario with my son. I saw Mario with my son, and that was really good because it's very nostalgic, and he didn't get a lot of it, but I got it.
Yeah.
So I like the Mario movie, and we also do Mario sunglasses, so I'm all about Nintendo. But yeah, that was the last movie, and I liked it. But I unfortunately don't really have time to watch movies, and I'd love to watch more of them, to be frank with you.
Don't worry about it. It's the same with me. Mine was Ninja Turtles, the new one. That it's amazing. It's so good, and again,
I want to see it actually.
It's so good. The commentary, there's a lot of adult commentary in there for you, so it's good. So as a parent, I get it. I appreciate the kids' movies with the adult commentary that they're not going to get, but we get.
Yeah, for sure.
It could be the last book that you read, or maybe a book that you continue to go back to and is kind of your go-to. What's, either a favorite book or the last book that you read?
The favorite book that I've read in recently enough, and I've read it multiple times now, or actually didn't read it. I listened to it on whatever the books.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for saying that, because I'm the same way. I always say I read it and I'm like, I listened to it on Audible.
Yeah, it's Audible. It wasn't reading, but it's a psychology. It's called The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. And it is very, I love that book because, a lot of people, it's really just super interesting. A couple tidbits from it, like, he basically talks about how like everything negative is, everything negative sounds smart. Like you're asking me like, how does 24 sound? Well, I could tell you like 24 sounds like a disaster, blah, blah. But negative things sound smarter, so people believe them, but it doesn't mean they're actually true, you know. And there's a lot of things like that in that book, which I really like. But really, what it does, it kind of gives you this mindset of like, what are you really shooting for financially in your life? You know, are you really, like, a lot of people just go, I want to just have so much money, but what does that so much mean to you? You know, and where do you stop, and where do you realize money is just freedom? It's not, you know, like that's the point. And I think that book to me was incredible. So Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. It's really, in my opinion, it's a great book.
Okay, that's a great one. I have not heard of it, and I haven't read it, and I'm adding it to my Audible list now. I love it.
Love it.
So tell us, if there's one person out there that you feel is, you know, quote unquote, winning at life right now, that you would love to be able to sit down, take to lunch, who would that be?
Taylor Swift.
That's the best answer we've had on the podcast right now.
100%. I mean, she's winning in life. She's dating Travis Kelce, so that's why she's winning in life.
I mean, I don't disagree with you on that one. From a women's perspective, yes.
I'm kidding. But I mean, just in general, the girl's brilliant. I mean, she just had the best tour in the history of all tours. My wife and my daughter went to it. And I think that's my daughter's college tuition right there, gone. But I mean, it's incredible what she has done and what she's constantly doing. And I mean, I don't, you know, being in the spotlight so much and still being able to do all these things and somewhat live her life. It's pretty incredible. The girls, or the woman's amazing. I keep on saying girl, which is not true. You know, the woman's amazing. So yes, I'd love to pick her brain, honestly.
Yes. I think that is the most brilliant answer I have heard. And I love coming from a man that, you know, Taylor Swift is your answer. I love that. So, all right, last question, because that was just too good. We should have ended there, but last question. If you could go back and tell your, you know, 17, 18 teenage self, something, one piece of advice, what would it be? I know it's a
buy Apple, buy Apple stock right now, and a lot of it. Any amount you have, buy Apple. That's it.
Buy Apple stock and be an early adopter into Bitcoin, and then get out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously, like, hindsight's 20/20, but you learn. I mean, I didn't go to college. You know, I kind of started iced out gear right in high school, or I started going to college, but that didn't work out very well because I was working too much. But it was, you know, there's a lot I learned. I basically got an MBA in real life. You know, that's basically what happened. So, I mean, there's a lot I could tell myself, but, you know, maybe even not buying a house. I wish I never bought my house when I was 22 years old and rented and used that money for something else, like investing. That's a much different, I know that's not a very popular idea with tax savings and everything else, but in reality, it's like, you know, there were a lot better options to buying things in the Valley at the time. And you know, there's a lot. So,
no, I think with the housing comment, you're speaking to Gen Z right now. You know, it's all the research shows they're buying less. So I don't think that's an unusual comment. I love all the comments. This has just been so fun. So many good little nuggets of wisdom, and, you know, such a great career. So thank you for being open and honest and willing to share your story with us, because I do think that, you know, there's somebody out there that needs to hear this. And, you know, we appreciate you at ASD. So we look forward to seeing you in March.
Can't wait. And thank you for having me on. I really very much appreciate it.
All right, David. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Be sure to subscribe to ASD Market Week's Let's Talk a Little Shop, a podcast that can be found on iTunes, Google Play, Amazon, or Spotify. See you there.